In terms of this coordinated approach that we've seen over the last few days, the EU, Canada, the UK and the US, is this the new normal? Is this what the Biden administration was talking about in terms of a coordinated response to China and what they see as these nefarious actions? Are we going to see more of this going forward?
Very much so. That is one of the hallmarks of the Biden administration, really reforming, establishing relationships with our allies and working in concert with our allies to address the many, many issues around the world, whether it's on climate change, Iran, and certainly China and Southeast Asia. That was one of the fallacies of the Trump administration. While they were right to address the deep-seated, long-standing issues of trade and economic policies that the U.S. has had with China, the go-it-alone approach actually hurt Americans and benefited the businesses of our allies. So we have to really approach all of these issues, including China, on a coordinated bilateral basis or multilateral basis.
And this response from Beijing, particularly targeting EU officials, took some here by surprise. Is it your sense, drawing on your experience with Chinese officials over the years when you were based here in Beijing, is it your sense that China is overplaying its hand?
Well, China's response was expected and obviously normal because there's no way in which China could accept sanctions and actions by the United States and its allies, the EU, without doing nothing. They had to do something. Without doing something. So they had to respond, if nothing else, for their own audience to show that they're not about to be bullied around or lectured, and so that they had to reciprocate.
And Ambassador, just to follow, I guess, this line of thought here, with this increased response from many places in the world now, do you think Beijing listens? And in what way do you think China might take maybe half a step back on certain issues?
Well, certainly China is very concerned about its image around the world, and to be accused of committing genocide, and not just by one country, but by numerous countries, is obviously of concern. And so it impacts their image to many in front of other countries with which they're trying to develop closer relations. They are on a diplomacy effort all around the world. With their Belt Road Initiative, providing technical and financial assistance to other developing countries, helping build infrastructure, hospitals, water systems, as well as extracting natural resources. So they're really trying to develop more allies among the countries of the world, especially the developing countries, especially at a time when the United States and the many Western countries have really pulled back from foreign assistance and foreign aid. For instance, China is providing tens of millions of doses of the vaccine to Brazil. And as a result, Brazil now has has pulled back on its ban of Huawei 5G equipment in Brazil. Previously, they were aligned with the United States at the request and behest and urgings of the Trump administration to ban Chinese company Huawei providing 5G equipment to Brazil. Well, Trump is no longer in office, and the very authoritarian leader there, who previously was aligned with Trump, has now rethought that, is opening up 5G telecommunications bidding and equipment purchases to China, while China is providing millions and millions of doses of the vaccine, when the United States is not.
That takes us, I think, relatively speaking, of course, that takes us into the tariffs issue. And I would imagine Beijing wants perhaps to see some of that brought down, even removed altogether. Is there still enough broad support in the U.S., though, for the same amount of tariffs to still be in place?
I don't think you'll see the Biden administration removing the tariffs anytime soon. They will, however, try to enlist the support and coordination of its allies in approaching the trade and economic issues that everybody is concerned about with respect to China. But the unilateral approach has really hurt American consumers and American businesses because the cost of Chinese inputs and goods coming in the United States has gone up dramatically. The New York Fed and the Wall Street Journal have indicated that the burden and the impact on the average American household is anywhere from $800 to $1,000 more per year. And certainly when American companies are paying extra costs as a result of the tariffs, it raises the price of their own goods that they sell, whether it's in America or around the world. At the same time, China has imposed retaliatory tariffs on American goods, making American goods going into China much more expensive compared to the European goods. And therefore, European companies are benefiting from this one-on-one trade war between the United States and China. Many of those countries and businesses around the world support what we're doing, have the same concerns about China's and economic trade policies that America does, but they are actually benefiting during this trade war. That's why we need a coordinated, multilateral approach, a unified approach with China involving the United States and its allies.
I want to get your views on the tech competition between China and the US and other nations. We've seen this big investment from Intel in terms of trying to build out chip capacity, semiconductor capacity in the US. Do you read anything longer term into that? What is your response to that investment? What does it tell you about how things are playing out going forward?
Well, I think that certainly we need to ensure the security, reliability of our supply chains. And it doesn't matter what the product is, whether it's chips, whether it's medical equipment, pharmaceutical ingredients, protective equipment. No country should really be reliant on any other country disproportionately for critical supplies of any nature. And China is also doing the same. They saw what happened during the Trump administration when the president threatened to cut off sales of things like Corning glass to the cell phone makers of China. That would have crippled those companies. And so now China is on its own mission, is doubling down on their program called Made in China 2025, where they want to be not only world-class, but also independent and self-sufficient in a lot of these technologies, from chips to medical equipment to clean energy to clean vehicles.